one of the Marcus Freeman era at Notre Dame didn't get off to a strong start, but it did have a strong finish. The Fighting Irish started 0-2 with an upset loss to Marshall, but closed the year by winning 6 of their last 7 games, including that bowl win over South Carolina, to finish 9-4 and ranked in the top 20. Now going into 2023, the expectations are, per usual, high again, and the Fighting Irish are college football playoff contenders. But can they get there? So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad that you could join us today as we break down everything you need to know about Notre Dame football, projecting their schedule and record for this upcoming season. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. And of course, check out everything down in the description below. We have our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, beating out 80% of national analysts and handicappers each of the last 5 years. So it's guaranteed money right back in your pocket. Go sign up for those today for a full year-long subscription. Check out our Patreon account for exclusive college football content year-round, becoming a member of our Patreon Wall of Fame. And of course, check out our mailing address. Send us some gear. We're starting to add a lot more to this backdrop now. We've gotten some from our good man Jerry Turner over at Syracuse, Charles Lehigh at Tulane, sending us both the pennants and the Tulane helmet, and a handful of others as well, even some NFL gear down there. Send us some gear to the mailing address to be featured in every single Gridiron Expert video as we expand our nation from coast to coast. So let's take a look at Notre Dame, guys. I really like this team. I think a lot of you guys do as well. A major reason why Notre Dame is getting a lot of hype this year, and they typically do, they're typically in playoff discussion, but a major reason there's so much excitement is because of the addition of Sam Hartman at quarterback. You know, last year, Notre Dame had major quarterback questions. Tyler Buckner was there. He got injured early. Drew Pine stepped in, did a solid job. Now neither are with the program. Sam Hartman transfers in, though, from Wake Forest, one of the best quarterbacks in the country and one of the best quarterbacks in ACC history, after throwing for nearly 13,000 yards during his career with the Demon Deacons, 110 touchdowns, owns the record for most 300-yard passing games in ACC history. He's unbelievable, and he's going to thrive in this Notre Dame offense. Now, granted, offensive coordinator Tommy Rees is gone over to Alabama, but Gerard Parker got promoted from the tight ends coach to offensive coordinator. I think things are going to be just fine offensively for Notre Dame. Audric Estime back at running back, 920 yards, 11 touchdowns last year. My only concern is the quarterback's great, the running back's great, the offensive line is great, anchored by Joe Alt, but they lose 4 of their top 5 pass catchers. That's my biggest concern for the Fighting Irish right now, is who's Sam Hartman going to throw to. Defensively, going to be strong per usual. Marcus Freeman, a defensive-minded coach, 8 starters back this year after giving up just 23 points per game and only 329 total yards per game. They returned their top 4 tacklers. You're led by J.D. Bertrand at linebacker, very solid linebacking core, solid defensive line, and that secondary, very underrated, only gave up 198 passing yards per game, allowed just one 300-yard passing game last year, and that was to Drake May in North Carolina, who Notre Dame also beat. So 300-yard passing game, still beat them. Pretty dang impressive. You take a look at the schedule, guys. Notre Dame, of course, has a tough one. I mean, their season, whether they're going to go to the playoff or not, really comes down to the big 3, right? It's the home game against Ohio State, the home game against USC, and the road game at Clemson. Those are the 3 toughest games on Notre Dame's schedule. And those are going to be great resume-boosting opportunities, but if Notre Dame loses 2 of those, they're done. And that also includes if they slip up anywhere else, because they have a handful of trap games as well. But we'll start breaking down the schedule. I love the week 0 opener over in Ireland, finally getting that overseas game against Navy, Fighting Irish and the Midshipmen in Ireland. It's going to be great. The Irish in Ireland. I'm going to give Notre Dame this win, though. They traditionally play very well against Navy. They've won 10 of the last 11 against the Midshipmen, including a 35-32 win last year. Navy, no slouch. Brian Newberry stepping in as the new head coach. 17 starters back, which that's a lot of starters for a military academy. Very rare you see that much experience returning. So I think Navy's going to give Notre Dame a decent test for about a half, but the Fighting Irish do beat the Midshipmen in what to me is the best game, should be the best game of week 0. Going into the real week 1, they take down Tennessee State, no problem there. And then they go on the road to NC State. An interesting game here, bit of a tougher environment for sure. First true road game, obviously, of the year for Notre Dame. NC State's one of those teams that really disappointed last year, but they were plagued by injuries. If Devin Leary doesn't get hurt, who knows what the Wolfpack do? They only won 8 games last year, so it definitely was disappointing considering the preseason expectations. Brennan Armstrong transfers into NC State from Virginia. If he can return to that 2021 form that he had with the Cavaliers, NC State offense can be pretty good. They returned their star running back as well in Jordan Houston. But I have a lot of faith in Sam Hartman in this game. NC State's defense is good, especially in the front seven, the back seven, the secondary. A little concerned about. Hartman had 397 yards against the Wolfpack last year during his time with Wake Forest. NC State also, as we mentioned, losing 3 starters in their secondary. I have a lot of faith that Notre Dame's passing attack is going to open it up here. They might not look super impressive against Navy and Tennessee State as they're trying to build that chemistry. It all comes together at NC State. They get a win over a Wolfpack team that should flirt with another 7-9 win season in theory. They beat Central Michigan at home. They're 4-0, and then it's the big one. First true test of the year for Notre Dame, Ohio State in South Bend. Huge game here. These two teams met last year in the season opener in Columbus. Notre Dame actually led in that game 10-7 at halftime, but ultimately lost 21-10 to the Buckeyes. So Notre Dame shut out in the second half. They only mustered 253 yards of offense. But I will give them this. Last year, Ohio State, excellent team, excellent quarterback, C.J. Stroud, and yet Ohio State held them to 223 passing yards. Notre Dame held them to 223 passing yards. They had a solid secondary that slowed down one of the better passing attacks in the country. Notre Dame lost that game because of offensive inabilities and inability to stop Travion Henderson in that Ohio State rushing game that had 172 yards on the ground against Notre Dame. Now the game is in South Bend. Notre Dame is 10 times better at quarterback, and their defense is just as good, if not better. While Ohio State, while the wide receiver core may be the best in the entire country, is breaking in a new quarterback in what will most likely be Kyle McCord. Defense should be solid once again for the Buckeyes. I do believe they're going to be pretty dang good with Jim Knowles back as defensive coordinator again, but I really like Notre Dame in this game. I'm going to pick them to win in South Bend over Ohio State. Again, you've got this strength of Notre Dame is their defense. They've got a solid defense, a veteran defense against an inexperienced quarterback that, yes, typically at the big schools like Ohio State and Alabama and places like that, they start to gel pretty quickly. And I think Kyle McCord will be great very, very quickly, especially with the surrounding talent he has. But I think Notre Dame's defense does just enough to slow him down. This will be one of the toughest environments that McCord faces all year, and the toughest one he'll face so far in his early career with the Buckeyes, only in week 4. I'm giving Ohio State the loss here. I'm giving Notre Dame the win here in South Bend. All this talk about how Notre Dame can't win the big games. They get at least one of them at home against Ohio State. Go ahead and book it. They go on the road to take on Duke. They'll beat Duke. Now, the Blue Devils certainly no slouch, and this is a bit of a trap game for Notre Dame. Emotional after a win over Ohio State, could fall flat here. Hungover after a heartbreaking loss, if they were to lose, could fall flat here. This is a Duke team that won 9 games last year, returns 18 starters, including pretty much everybody offensively. Riley Leonard, no slouch at the quarterback position, but I think Marcus Freeman does just enough to come in here, prep up the defense, and slow down that offense. They're good, but they're not elite by any means. Duke's defense gave up over 255 passing yards per game last year, including 347 to Sam Hartman last year at Wake Forest. I know it's completely different styles. I know it's completely different teams and offenses and years and everything, but Hartman has played well against the Blue Devils in recent years. He'll do it again with Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish beat Duke, and then they'll beat Louisville on the road the very next week. Now, certainly no slouch either. Louisville dealing with a new coach in Jeff Brom, 13 starters back. That defense is actually going to be sneaky good. People don't realize that. Last year, Louisville was the Achilles heel for Sam Hartman. Forced 3 interceptions off of him, 3 fumbles off of him, sacked him 7 times. Notre Dame's offensive line will do a much better job than Wake Forest in terms of protecting Hartman. You give Hartman time in the pocket to throw, he's going to deliver. Louisville is a good team. I think Jeff Brom's actually going to surprise a little bit this year, but I don't know how quickly their offense can start to gel, and I don't know how well the offense can exploit this Notre Dame defense. They're going to want to air it out with Jack Plummer, who's just a mediocre quarterback at best, and I don't see him going out there and exploiting this Notre Dame secondary that, again, is going to be very, very strong this year. Give me Notre Dame to beat Louisville on the road, and just like that, they remain undefeated heading into their second big game of the year against USC. This is a top 10 showdown. There's no doubt about it. USC, more than likely undefeated at this point in the year. We have Notre Dame, undefeated at this point in the year. You're looking at a top 10, maybe even top 5 showdown, because Notre Dame's going to skyrocket in the rankings if they beat Ohio State. I love this game. Big-time rivalry game. Playoff implications for both. Last year, Notre Dame losing 38-27 on the road to the Trojans. They haven't lost at home to USC since 2011. But I think that comes to an end this year. I think USC's offense is the best offense that Notre Dame will see all year long. I think it's just going to be just a little much for this Notre Dame defense to handle. They can handle Ohio State and a new quarterback. They can handle Navy in the triple option. They can handle Duke. They can handle Louisville. I think they hit a roadblock against USC. The returning Heisman Trophy winner and Caleb Williams, the best quarterback in the country. The majority of his pass catchers returning. The run game going to be strong. The offensive line is strong. The defense isn't great, and I think Notre Dame hangs with them. Some say that Notre Dame maybe would have beaten USC had they had better quarterback play. I don't know if they would have done that last year. Even if Sam Hartman had been there, I don't know if they could have defeated USC last year. They played them close, 38-27. But this Notre Dame defense last year allowed 436 yards to USC. That was the most yards they allowed all year, the most points they allowed all year. They lost 38-27. Tied for that. South Carolina also put up 38 on them. But I think USC comes into South Bend and wins a close game. Would not surprise me at all to see Notre Dame get this win, especially with the confidence after beating Ohio State. But I think USC is just a little bit better, and that offense is going to be a little too much to stop. Give me the win for the Trojans. Notre Dame takes their first loss. Comes at a good time, though. You never want to lose a game, but now you got a loss and you get a week of rest to prep and to regroup and to fix what you did wrong. They come out of that bye week. They take on Pittsburgh. Bit of a rivalry game there as well, and they'll beat Pittsburgh. Some would say it's a trap game, and I would say so if they didn't have that bye week. But Marcus Freeman's going to rally the troops. They're going to regroup, and they're going to beat Pittsburgh at home. A team that has a solid defense, a team that, if they stay healthy at quarterback with Phil Jerkovac, could be pretty solid in the ACC this year. Bit of a sleeper team. But Notre Dame simply is going to be too much. Sam Hartman wins this game through the air because Notre Dame simply isn't going to run the ball against the Panthers, as they gave up less than 100 rushing yards per game last year. So they're going to have to rely heavily on the pass, but Pittsburgh's secondary not nearly as good as it's been in years past. So Notre Dame wins that game and then goes into their third big game of the year at Clemson. This is it. You win this, you're looking good for the playoff. You lose, Notre Dame probably falls a little bit short, goes to a New Year's Six bowl game if they can win their last two. But this game at Clemson is very, very intriguing to me. Everybody's trying to write off the Tigers, saying they're not going to be any good, that they're falling off. I don't think winning 10 or 11 games consistently means you've fallen off. Sure, they haven't been in the playoff in the last couple of years, but they're still a dang good team. Yes, Notre Dame crushed the Tigers last year, 35-14. But, like Notre Dame, Clemson gets a quarterback upgrade. Cade Klubnik, now the full-time starter for the Tigers, and a great offensive coordinator now in Garrett Riley coming in from TCU. That is huge for the Tigers. Huge for them. And I think over this offseason, you're going to see a completely different offense for Clemson. They return Klubnik. They return Will Shipley. They return a handful of wide receivers. This offense is going to be 10 times better than what it was under DJ Uiagalelei. The defense is going to be one of the best in the country, one of the best defensive lines, if not the best defensive line in the nation. The secondary is extremely loaded. The game is in Death Valley. I just don't know if Notre Dame can beat the Tigers here. They haven't fallen off. They're not a bad team. Just because you don't make the playoffs doesn't mean you're a bad team and that you're irrelevant now. This Tigers team is loaded. And I think we're going to kind of get flashes of those Clemson teams that we saw in 15, 16, 17. Those kind of Clemson teams than what we've seen these last couple of years. Clemson's not going anywhere, guys. They're still my favorite to win the ACC. The game in Death Valley, the revamped offense, the elite defense, home field advantage. Clemson's going to get this win. It's going to be close. No doubt about it. But Clemson gets the job done. Notre Dame takes their second loss of the year. They get their bye week. They should beat Wake Forest. Interesting game, the Sam Hartman reunion game, senior day for Notre Dame in South Bend. So I think Sam Hartman goes off against his former team. They win that, and then they should crush Stanford easily. I know they kind of thought that last year. The game was in South Bend. Notre Dame somehow lost 16-14, but I don't see any way Notre Dame loses that game now. Stanford 6 starters back total, new coach. Poor offense. Notre Dame's defense should have a field day against the Cardinal. They'll win that easily and finish the year at 10-2. Now, I know some people will be upset with that, losing 2 of the 3 big games. I'm here to tell you, obviously, Notre Dame's not losing all 3. Some people will be quick to say they'll lose to Ohio State, USC, and Clemson and go 9-3. Disagree with that. Notre Dame's winning at least 1 of their big 3 games. We believe it comes at home against Ohio State. And I'll tell you this, they're not losing both the home games. If you don't think they'll beat Ohio State, then they're going to beat USC. If you don't think they'll beat USC, they're beating Ohio State. They're not losing both of those home games. So really what it comes down to for me is that Clemson game. I think they split the home games. And if they do that, as a one-loss team going into Death Valley, you beat Clemson, Notre Dame is playoff bound at 11-1. No doubt about it. You lose to Clemson, you finish 10-2, you go to a New Year's Six bowl game. Big improvement from year 1 to year 2 under Marcus Freeman, continuing to build. I wouldn't take this as a disappointing season by any means, but I know some probably would. But the Fighting Irish guys are playoff contenders. They're going to be drastically better than last year. They're going to get off to a much better start than they did last year, and they will be in the playoff hunt all season long. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. Our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com, our Patreon account, exclusive college football content year-round. Send us some gear to the mailing address down in the description below. We'd love to get some Fighting Irish representation throughout this season. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.